as pessoas pensam que a COP é só sobre isso, né? Sobre as negociações. Para as universidades, a chave é que nós não somos realmente parte dessas negociações, não temos um papel ativo nas negociações. Os acadêmicos podem ser parte das delegações, aparecem nos eventos, mas eles não estão lá num papel ativo em nome das suas instituições. Eles podem ser observadores no processo, mas não se envolvem. É importante que as pessoas entendam isso. Há outros elementos importantes da negociação. Há esse foco específico na educação, ou seja, isso tem relação ao artigo 6 que tem relação à educação, o artigo 12 também do Acordo de Paris, que é muito importante. Eu detesto dizer isso, mas não tivemos conseguido muito sucesso nessa área. Precisamos ter mais conteúdo educacional, mas isso não está acontecendo como deveria estar acontecendo. Outra coisa que nós observamos, muitas pessoas se associam com as universidades e os acadêmicos pensam assim, como podemos mostrar os dados que produzimos dentro deste processo? Há mecanismos formais para fazer isso. A maioria desses mecanismos geralmente não aparecem na COP. Um deles é o IPCC, que é um processo internacional onde há um mecanismo que usa os dados e as informações. Tem também diálogos de pesquisa, mas eles não vão acontecer na próxima semana. Geralmente, eles acontecem 6 meses antes da COP. Além disso, temos também os eventos, as atividades, cujos mecanismos acontecem em outras épocas. Em terceiro, nós temos a, a presidência que está acontecendo no Brasil, que é muito importante para estabelecer prioridades temáticas. As universidades estão trabalhando com a presidência para apoiar isto, e muito depende de quando, de onde o, o evento está acontecendo. Em alguns lugares, as universidades não têm boas relações com o governo. Às vezes são vistas como inimigas do governo. Então, não é uma boa posição se vocês quiserem influenciar um engajamento com o processo temático da COP. Número 4, nós temos a agenda da ação, ou seja, os atores que têm o interesse, falamos sobre negócios, cidades, universidades, mas elas não são Thank you, Professor. Thank you for your talk and also for paying attention to the time. I'm going to pass the mic directly to our next panelist, Professor Mayane Bento. Thank you for being here with us. And quickly, I'm going to talk about her. She works full-time at the University of Pará. She coordinates the outreach project at the COP in Amazonia. She also provides guidance for some sectors of the university. She also works for the international relations in Brasilia. She's has a master of development. She has a BA in international relations from the University of Amazon. Welcome, Professor. Good afternoon, everyone. Okay, I'm right from here. I'm a home girl. I will talk in Portuguese and I will try to respect my 10 minutes. And I'll try to be concise and try to focus on the content. I will even time myself. I have a little cheat sheet here, but I think my message is easy to be transmitted. As a worker for the Pará University, someone who got her training here in Amazon, my area of work has been international relations, more specifically the academic area. I'm very happy to be here. It's a great opportunity. And I agree with the points mentioned by my colleague, Stephen. And we need to take this opportunity, take advantage of this opportunity of the COP happening here in Amazonia. This process here in our state, during this organization process, there was some loss of hope, some despair, but also some expectations. Right now, being here, being able to participate, and I thank you, Professor Tristan, for this opportunity. It's very important so that we can reflect on a main issue. What do universities need to do? What can they do during the COP? But also to reflect on the scientific knowledge and why, for so long, a great part of our efforts about climate have failed. I'd like to give myself the right to speak on behalf of the observatory and tell you some of the points that we've been working on for the last 2 years. We've been working on the process of the COP and how it has been working here in the state of Pará. It has been a challenge to think about science nowadays based on this dual pillar, but it has a separation still between man and nature, what's the subject and the object, and how everything is at the base of the logic of the man that we see nowadays. This is the base of a time when human beings became the central actors in the process of climate change. And not only that, there is a contradiction because the same science that subsidizes this economic model and the capacity to reflect our situation as a whole is at the same time the cause and the one who gives the diagnosis and proposes solutions. So it's a vicious circle that has limitations when it comes to moving ahead with the modern formula about the knowledge and about the ways to deal with this planetary crisis. The PCC in itself is a clear demonstration of the importance of science and the contradictions that it carries in this topic. It's the main mechanism that makes the interface between scientific and politics. It raises the data, it reads the information, so reports could inform the political decision. However, the same PCC, which is the base of the knowledge upon which some decisions are made, has been facing some challenges. Not all to find scientific objectivity. When we observe some of its challenges, taking into consideration the location where the technical support is, most of their headquarters are in developed countries, and the representativeness of countries from the global south is still very small in the dynamics of the PCC. This is still a challenge. So we see this gap between North and South and the perspective of a dynamic of the construction of goals comes from one side only, and the global South countries are not well represented. Now let's look at what happened at the meeting in June, which predicts what we're going to have at the COP. One of the debates that took place there is related to exactly this, about the sources of knowledge that inform political decisions. So some developing countries defend that we need to vary our sources within the PCC so we can include other voices like local people, indigenous people. We also had the countries that defended that the IPCC should be more flexible because it's very alarmist, because it has a goal of 1.5. So people are starting to use this flexibilization of the sources as a way to go back to denialism, to denying science. So I'd love to deepen this idea that in addition to have representativeness of Global South, we also have problems with internal representativeness. In Brazil, only 7% of the indigenous peoples or Black are teachers at university in the areas of technology, engineering, math, because these are the base of the work at the PCC. So when we see this demonstration, we see it as perpetuating colonization. So what would be the point of intensifying participation of national researchers when we have this contradiction, we have these challenges in our global south? So we'd have to think about these bases that bring to political decisions within the United Nations. Now let's think about the university in the Amazon. What would be its goal within this process? I believe its role would be to dismantle the colonial structure that perpetuates inequalities, but this would only be possible if it understands our challenges, epistemological and ontological. It means we are still used to see knowledge in an objective way. Sorry, the interpreter cannot continue the interpretation because there's an echo. It's better now. So we can propose an internal validity. Let's observe a community, a specific people, identify their relation with nature, they're able to live there without damaging nature, but they are outside of the decision process. So it's an ontological challenge. It's also epistemological, meaning our understanding of knowledge. So that's the challenge that universities in Amazon and universities in general need to overcome. So the COP Observatory has this letter that I invite all of you to read. It was a letter written by many people, by internationalists trained in Amazon, with the goal of contributing to the training of people who think based on the Amazon issues. So we provided guidance to our students, and there are some points in the letter that involved going to the state of Amapá. And maybe next year, if we manage to get some funding, we will go to the forum so we can do it in the city of Santarém. But here are the points that we propose. One, overcoming the idea of symbolism. Amazon is a symbolic place. It's a cup at the Amazon, but it doesn't belong to the Amazon. To me, it belongs to the Amazon. So the wording is very important because there is an attempt to hide the pressure that we're having here. The climate changes is a danger at a global level, and we are facing the real danger here in the Amazon. Also, we are trying to save our land because we need to guarantee our right to the land, the demarcation of land for the traditional people. We also try to find environmental violence. We need to strengthen the laws, the institutions. We need to work against land grabbing, against the slave labor. And it's in the state of Amazon that we see most of those problems. We also need to ensure water services, basic services, infrastructure, sewage, education to the people. We need to put the local pressure and have this exchange. So Stephen came, but we also have people, local people, and that's how the COP becomes fun and effective at the same time. We also want the COP to be a place for us to think about the LGBTQ plus population, people who live on the outskirts of the city, in poor areas. We also need to think about the decolonial diplomacy, which is very, very necessary to open a regional office in the north of the country, in the northern area of the country, hopefully in Belém, so that the people of the Amazon could contribute to the construction of external policies. We needed to strengthen regional cooperation. Also, we needed to invest in education. So even if this letter could seem to be a little utopic, it's the desire of our students, of social movements, of many people. It's also an expression of our ethical and politics position that we wanted to have in our daily practice. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Professor Dalila, for your comments, your views, highlighting the local importance of this area, which has the spotlight on now because of the COP happening here. Now, Pedro Jacobi from USP will be talking, but I'll read his mini curriculum. He has a BA in Economy and Social Science by University of São Paulo, Master in Urban Planning at Harvard, Doctor in Sociology by the University of São Paulo. He's a senior teacher and a researcher at the Institute of Energy and Environment at USP. He was a teacher at the Faculty of Education at USP. He's a member of a Center for Research in Climate Disasters. He's a researcher at the Advanced Research Studies at USP. He's an editor of a review, a magazine since 1997. He is the president of Council for Sustainability of South America. His research is based on governance of water and climate change, climate justice, soil justice, environmental governance, and so on. Professor Pedro, you have the floor. Thank you. Good afternoon. Thank you so much for being here, having this talk today. Above all, it's interesting because I have many points in common with you. Just to mention you a bit, I'm in the post-degree program for the environment since 1985, more than 30 years. Many of the programs are connected to multidisciplinarity. Before it used to be interdisciplinarity. Just to say that the university already had before some concerns in this area, but this process has become much bigger. Another important point I want to make has to do with what you said just now. The university is a center where scientists do their research. These scientists reflect their research in the work of the PCC. So it's important to always have this association between the work of the scientists and the work of the IPCC, along with organizations of social society and several research institutes from all over the country. COP centers on accords to reduce emissions, which is the central point of what's affecting us daily all over the planet. I'd like to highlight that. In this sense, it's important to highlight the role of the university. That's the first aspect I'd like to highlight. It's also important to highlight how much the IPCC started to incorporate the topic of adaptation, because before the focus was just mitigation in a perspective of the symbiology with the earth. But in the last 10 years, they started giving more visibility to the topic of adaptation, which incorporates human sciences in its diversity. We have to highlight this. Within the universities, we've been focusing on climate justice, intersectionality, and all those topics that have to do directly with people in their lands, because adaptation is people in their own lands. Look at what happened in Jamaica. We still don't have the idea of the scale of the problem, but it happened in their territory with the loss of resources, loss of their wealth. So that's important to bring the topic of adaptation to our reflection. On the other hand, I would like to show a bit the meaning of looking at the land in relation to inter and transdisciplinarity, because before no one knew about those two things. So we can't use a word just as a buzzword, but we need to use the word for dialogue, for understanding, for listening. This is absolutely crucial when we talk about the land, as some comrades already mentioned today. Also, COP30. At COP30, there's also the topic of implementation, but it depends on political desire to implement it and political conditions. We have the desire, but the problem is those who represent us, I'm talking about globally, we are saying that we can't just hide the sun with our with a piece of cloth. The international situation is not favorable to advance concretely, because this is a different COP. The last three happened at oil-rich countries. This one is happening in a country where there's a large presence of indigenous peoples, and it also has attracted a lot of representatives in by the business people and also the civil society. I follow organizations of the civil society like LG since the 80s. I participated in the Greenpeace and many other organizations. Now I'm the president of the South American Council for one of those organizations. Our civil society has been mobilizing for a long time, but no one is listening, it seems. But it mobilizes itself, it's committed to a democratic agenda, a dialogical and sustainable and also political agenda. There's another point. What does it mean to have a priority agenda? So I've been talking to Professor Paulo Artacho to bring this discussion about fair transition. What do we mean by that? It has to be a transition that, let's say, in terms of energy, is fair. It's not, we cannot expel the population in the name of transitioning to renewable energy. A fair transition means we needed to understand what it means to reduce deforestation. Yeah, we see good indicators now, but we had 4 horrible years in the previous government. So the political situation always has to do with what we can do. On the other side, when we talk about funding, we have the dimension of what would be desirable, and what's real. We can't just say, oh, we have a Santa Claus bag full of money and we can share that money. No, finances is important, but when we talk about financing, we need to have a plan. I don't know if decisions have been made. The commas are important when these agreements are discussed. Also, the topic of financing has to do with anticipation, prevention, but there's also another topic that's part of topic, which is losses and damages, which is exactly we had in Porto Alegre, in Recife, in Petrópolis, in Teresópolis, now in Jamaica, in many places that suffer the direct impact. This is immediate. Most of the country is not able to deal with those disasters. Another crucial topic. Right now, we have a big enemy, which is the Trump government. We have to reinforce multilateralism. It's crucial to reinforce multilateralism. And universities, through their courses, have been approaching this topic. You who work at UNB know the person who is working there in this area. Multilateralism has to be a permanent agenda. We have to fight for that. It's also crucial at this COP to show the importance of civil society and the educational practices for sustainability. Climate justice needs to be defended. They need to be well articulated, training, capacitation of all social actors. from the municipal management, like firefighters, civil defense, all those sectors need to be more present in this topic. Finally, I would like to say science has an important role. Our scientists, especially in this center that I'm part of, our concern is to show that we have answers, we have good practices, they need to be multiplied. And it's fundamental that to advance at universities of methodology, concrete practice that gives us a dimension that will add and will add dialogue and will listen. Thank you. Thank you, Professor Pedro, for your talk. That's very relevant to our discussion. I would like to go now to our last panelist, Professor Diane Oliveira. She sent me just a small resume, a small idea of her credentials, but I can add a few more things. She's a sociologist, has PhD at the Education Institution of London University, also Montreal University in Canada, and at the State University of Rio de Janeiro. She's an emeritus teacher at the University of Minas Gerais, director for international cooperation at the CNPq, National Council for Technological Development. She works with education policies. Welcome, Professor Dalila. Thank you. Good afternoon to everyone here present. It's a pleasure to be at this table at this historical moment at this university, the third biggest university in Brazil, no doubt the most powerful in the Amazon region. Thank you, first of all, to Tristan McCowan for his invitation. It was a last minute one, but for me, it's a very important opportunity to be here with you. I'm happy to see some friends here like Ramon, my partner at the University of Strasbourg in France, and other teachers like Vera Jacot and others. I'm so happy to be at this university that has been my partner for so many years as a director of the CNPq, the oldest institution in support of research in Brazil. This moment for us, the COP is crucial. We understand that the fact that the Brazilian government brought COP here to this region in the Amazon, in the city of Belém, as such a diverse and emblematic city, is something that's very important. We know that political denialism started with climate denialism. We have theories proving that. Brazil lived a political denialism just recently that brought us to scientific denialism. So we went through a period of time when our universities, which are the institutions responsible for most of the research in Brazil, the universities were coerced in their autonomy and were restricted in their actions due to budget cuts directly and indirectly during the Bolsonaro government. It amounted to about 40%, those cuts. Our Minister of Science and Innovation Technology, Luciana Santos, always says, science came back. But it's not that science came back, it was always here. But it suffered a lot during Bolsonaro's government, but it resisted. Otherwise, we would not be here today. For example, we know that the deforestation of the Amazon, it was a great topic that caused the the president of Ricardo Galvão, one of the most influential scientists in his area and physicists, he resigned. He had become president of the CNPq. Oh, now he became the president of CNPq during Lula's government, as a way to say science needs to be valued. So since Lula came back, we've been trying the best we can, despite the National Congress that we have, with a very tight budget that we have, because Congress doesn't have the sensitivity to put in our laws a big portion for science. However, we've been able, little by little, to restart our capacity for producing science in Brazil, which is so important. But we still have great challenges for universities and for federal agencies like CNPq, CAPES, and others. For example, regional inequalities in Brazil. If we look to where the budget goes in science, technology, and innovation, post-graduation, superior education, it goes most of it to the south and southeast areas of Brazil. So there is a big concentration of funds, and this needs to be corrected. We need a bigger balance in this distribution. Also, we have gender inequality. Our national technology system is totally dominated by the white men. You know the song by Caetano Veloso, an older adult, a male, older, white adult is always in power. So we have a gender inequality that needs to be recognized and corrected within our institutions. Our culture is dominated by machismo and structural racism. We need to fight racial inequalities, which is very strong in Brazil. We are in the heart of the Amazon, where the indigenous peoples claim for visibility in Brazil until 1988, until the federal constitution. Until then, they did not even have citizenship. Also, we have the challenge of social classes. Our universities are still too elitist. Our universities, I'm talking about public universities, now are becoming more popular, but we continue training more people in private institutions, distance online training of poor quality, because universities are not yet accessible to most of the population. So we still have a lot of problems. I'm going to focus now on what CNPq has been doing lately in regards to COP and the challenges we need to face. About climate changes, the CNPq has long-term programs, an ecological program of long-term duration. We also ProTax. It's about taxonomy, biology, and biodiversity. ProAntar, that has to do with Antarctica. We also have two other programs, more recent, under our management. One of them is Pro Amazon. I want to talk a bit about that. And also Amazon Plus 10. Pro Amazon is one of the 12 strategic programs of our National Fund for Science, Technology, and Innovation. It's a powerful funding to finance Brazilian science, because we scientists and researchers need to pay attention to how this fund is being managed. So one of the projects is about the Amazon. So first, 150 million were earmarked for institutional programs, for programs in the Amazon, to strengthen institutions in the area. The second call was launched recently. We just announced the results last week. It was a call for internationalization between academic institutions of science and technology of the Amazonic region, the states of the legal Amazon, with Amazonian countries. That way we promote South-South operations, and we also share our responsibility with those who also have a piece of the Amazon, because the Amazon doesn't belong only to Brazil. So the lines of research go from a more technical study about climate change, and you mentioned a great collaborator with whom we always dialogue, to social areas, including the concern we have with local communities, their culture, anthropology, archaeology, sociology. So it's open to social areas, so we understand that this science has to dialogue with society. We don't produce science in isolation inside the universities. Okay, I just have 1 minute left. In this sense, what we've been doing is to strengthen from the point of view of cooperation, international cooperation in international networks. Then we have a program, UNFCCC, that has been making a big difference to us. That's the top of the pyramid of the Brazilian science. Here in the Amazonian region, we are treating this issue, and we came in a caravan called Yara Azul that shows you on my water bottle. Scientific and academic cooperation between Brazil and France. We boarded the boat in the city of Manaus up to Belém. I boarded the boat in the city of Santarém, to be honest, to just half of the trip. We stopped along the way at different communities discussing archaeology, history, sustainable cities. But what's our point? What was the main point for our cooperation is to show at the COP what we have that's most powerful. It's scientific knowledge, but it's not any knowledge. It's a type of science that's contextualized. It's inclusive and committed to social justice and to the future of the planet. So we hope that this COP is a moment where we can build here a commitment for the future despite of the North American denialism. We hope that from now on, our politicians can make correct decisions, and they can't complain they don't have subsidy. We are bringing science. Now it's up to them. The ball is in their court. Thank you for the opportunity. Wow, that's makes my job tough here, right? To articulate all the talks today, initially, to thank our colleagues here who are extremely attentive to their time limitation. And I did not even say at the beginning, but the idea is now to have some comments and some questions about this topic. And just to bring a bit of what I said about the reflection axis of this panel, many things that people said complemented each other. Starting with Professor Stevenson, who had 5 important points, Professor Steven, and in the role of universities for to fight climate change. He pointed out some challenges and potentialities that we have as the production of data, and to bring the agenda to the universities and our role as trainers of professionals who needed to have specific abilities and capacities to deal with climate change. It also was also clear in the talk by Professor Dalila and also Professor Mayane. Our challenge is to think about science beyond its fragmentation, but the importance of science in the production of scientific knowledge. I really like when Professor Dalila made a comment about scientific knowledge that needs to dialogue and be committed to the future of the planet. So it's clear the challenges we have, the inequalities, for example, that we have in Brazil within our universities, and also a bigger inequality between the north and the south of the country, and the representativeness we have within the universities. So what you all said complement each other. Professor Pedro also pointed out the importance of science in the work of the IPCC and the need to think beyond and to think about a fair transition and everything that the university needs to think about. Now we're going to open to some questions. Maybe I could make the first question. Just to begin our debate, I would like to ask our colleagues how they see the role of the university after the 22nd of November, how we can potentialize our actions, how we can be protagonists in the implementation of the commitments that will come out of COP. A lot has been talked about implementation, adaptation. What is the role of the university in these aspects? Well, once more, I will talk from my point of view, but this is the time for internationalism to shine, for us to shine, because everyone is looking at the Amazon, everyone now is thinking about international relations, and we have this commitment to look at the dimensions of our own state, the state of Amazon. The fact that the COP is being hosted here made that the institution, the education institutions, start to think more about their courses. You know, my students can't even be here because they're all involved with volunteering with the COP. Second, the process of UEPA needs to be intensified so that because the teachers are getting a lot of demands, our function is to try to respond to an ever-increasing demand so we can explain exactly what is COP. My mom thought COP was COPA. But and then she went there, she watched one of the talks to understand what's happening and to understand, for example, how the city of Paraupebas or the city of Marauabá are connected to the international dynamics. So it's the time for institutions like UEPA to have more strength, to gain more strength, to go after financing, and to go looking for, to have more representativeness and to highlight our people. So after the 22nd of November, our institutions will have more engagement, for sure. The way I see the COP in the Amazon is an important point for the COP itself, especially to break with the fact that oil-rich company had so much presence before, and now we have we were talking about fair transition and everything that's involved. Also, being in the Amazon, we're thinking about the Pan-Amazonian dimension and try to understand how this cooperation among Amazonian countries is fundamental to prevent the contamination of the river. We don't have a Latin American directives, but we should have Latin American directives to strengthen the fight against deforestation, against using chemicals in mining, and especially protecting the traditional population. Okay, I'm not here as a manager of universities, but we cannot allow COP to be just another event. This happens a lot in Brazil. We prepare for a big event and then it ends in carnival. The interpreter cannot hear. Her microphone is no longer working. So there's an important issue that we need to observe. Brazil is not just Amazon. Preserving the Amazon doesn't mean just to preserve the forest. We have 6 biomes in Brazil, and they're all threatened. The Pantanal, the lowlands, all of them, the swamps, the marshland areas. Pedro and I were talking about environmental education. It's very weak now in Brazil. We basically don't have this discussion in our curriculum. Universities need now to politicize the debate. It's not just a technical issue, it's also a political issue. So the day after COP has a good agenda for our deans of universities. Good afternoon, everyone. Can you hear me? I'd like to say hello to the table, to the panel, especially our teacher Dalila. She is always at the defense of some important issues. I would like to ask the following question. Our Amazon is full of rivers and small streams that in Portuguese we call igarapés, the small rivers. These igarapés are full of garbage. So the rivers are being poisoned. The and even the boat where the Dalila used to come got stuck because there's so much river in the rivers. So how can the scientists treat the issue of garbage? So each person from each home can be made aware that we need to take care of the environment, and because this is our common home. Well, very quickly, it's important to take into consideration the public management is essential to do this homework. Yeah, it's a shame the way we treat garbage and the landfills in Brazil. But there's no doubt we have to face, on one side, magical solutions like burning the garbage, which should not be the priority of the city halls to get rid of the garbage. But we need to help the population that there are different moments. You have to collect the garbage, you have to recycle, you have to reuse, and then we can incorporate. In the case of Brazil, which is very different from Sweden, we needed to incorporate the garbage collectors cooperatives. They need to be incorporated as environmental workers. So, because the big issue nowadays is these people don't are not organized, and then the system gets dismantled. It's fundamental to recognize them as professionals, like so many others in the public management. So the trial centers, the recycling centers should be better organized. But in most of Brazil, we don't have this selection of garbage, this triage of garbage. They collect and they give more attention to quantity, and the quantity is another problem. I I'm not going to go deeper into that because then I could go into dangerous territory. Thank you. Before we continue, I would like to let you know that the dean of the university is here. And I would like to let Salomon speak. I would like to invite Professor Tristan and Professor Sonia to come here quickly to salute the dean and to introduce him. Professor Gilmar Pereira, our dean of Federal University of Pará, along with Professor Doriet. He's almost an emeritus professor here. Also, Felipe Neto. So, Tristan McCowan is our general coordinator at an international level. He's also an emeritus professor. And we have Professor Sonia Schwendler, who is the coordinator of our climate unit work internationally. I know I'm breaking the protocol, and I apologize for that. We have Professor Dalila, Professor Pedro Jacob, Professor Mayane, and Professor Stephen Davison from Cambridge University. Also, Professor Luciana from University of Passo Fundo, all here with us. So quickly, I'd like to give them the mic to thank the group. They're also going to talk briefly about the fact that we have 16 countries represented here today. There are several researchers from different countries. Everything is being translated online. People have earphones. Those who speak Portuguese access to Portuguese in Zoom, and those who speak English do access English. Sorry, he said that the wrong way. Thank you, the Dean and everyone from UFPA for welcoming us here. We have a partnership with UFPA by the London, from the part of London University. It's a long time relation. It was my pleasure to come here several times, also with Professor Vera. It's a very strong relation. We benefit a lot from this relationship, also from the scientific side of the university, but also the learning that we had here in the region. So thank you all for our presence. So we have this network with 27 universities from 11 countries. And this event is gathering people here in person, but also online from different countries working together, facing climate change through the scientific and social action with an intercultural learning through cultural and linguistic barriers. Also, thank you to the interpreters facilitating this cultural interchange. Thank you all. Professor Gilmar, magnificent Dean of the Federal University of Pará, welcome to our event. This morning, we had the opening. He participated quickly, remotely. Also, the Dean from the Paraná University participated remotely this morning. So we have this commitment as a network. We have this wonderful project by the Climate U that was initiated by Professor Tristan, our emeritus coordinator. He will always be. He initiated this whole process. So our journey is as a network has brought us to our third conference. First one was in London, then second was in Nairobi. We have Jacqueline from Kenya, who coordinated that one. So that was the country who hosted the second conference and who coordinated the network. The third country now is Brazil. So we are part of this network with the support from 5 universities. University of Passo Fundo. That's where the process was initiated here in Brazil and coordinated the other universities in Brazil, like the Federal University of Pará, the University of the West of Pará, University of São Paulo, and University of Paraná. So the Pará University is coordinating the network this year and coordinating this conference here in the Amazon at your university. That's welcoming us. Next year, we are inviting everyone to, on behalf of our next coordinator for the fall network and who organized the fourth conference. So that's how we go through several different countries in our journey. So we have several other countries like India present here as well, South Africa. What else? France, England, Pakistan, Kenya. Anyone else? Great Britain. And us here in Brazil, welcoming and being welcomed by all of you here in Pará, in Belém. And I hope to see you all also throughout COP. One important thing that you may not know is that in the London conference, our dean was present, and it was an important presence there. He got lots of praise. People to say, "Wow, you have a dean like that in Brazil." Professor Gilmar, you have the mic. Good afternoon. I had no intention of interrupting your meeting. I just came to see you all, to salute the panel. Oh, so nice that Delilah is here, the director of CNPq. She's our colleague, she's one of our professors, and she has been here with us for a while, for a long time. Also our colleague from USP, from UEPA, from Cambridge, and also from Passo Fundo, and our two colleagues who just spoke. I'm very happy. I wanted to come here before, since the beginning of the event. I wasn't able. It's so busy with the COP. Delilah knows, she followed me to some events. We welcomed a ship yesterday. Delilah came on that ship, on that boat, which was achieved through an articulation of many of us, including the France embassy, some universities, and we made some stops. We had some dialogues with the local people. This proposal has enchanted me, a proposal to make scientists from the whole world to step on Amazonian soil, because some people had no idea. They never been here. It was wonderful to see them. They left on the 28th and they arrived yesterday in Belém, stopping at several places, including a place where there is a university campus. It was great to see that. This morning, around 10 a.m., the Greenpeace boat arrived. A huge boat, the size of the Amazon, gigantic. I went there with Delilah. We visited the boat. We welcomed the people from the Greenpeace, a grandiose structure they have. We're going to welcome all the boats, all the structures. The university is doing what we can. And something else very important that we like to do here is the activism. We're going to have the People Summit with more than 15,000 people. We're also going to have the COP Village. We are going to welcome indigenous peoples from from the planet, about 3,000 indigenous people during COP. We are very mobilized. We are also having some odd events within the Blue Zone. It's there's a big significance to have the university there, to have this dialogue. And I'm very, very proud that us at the university, from our education institute, are organizing ourselves to participate in some potent network like this one with colleagues from Brazil and colleagues from several different countries. The way I see it is that university today can only maintain itself if it becomes internationalized deeply. I'm very happy that at UFPE for the last 30 years we have known how much our institute has advanced in this sense, how our public is so qualified and and we're lucky to have an event of this nature. So please feel welcomed to the Federal University of Pará. May this event be a success. This is a strategic moment, the moment of this COP, which to us is different from all the others. It's a COP that belongs to the Amazon. And all of you know how this was difficult, how there's so much prejudice in relation to the Amazon. I've been begging with newspapers, talking with different universities in Brazil, in Europe, Latin America, bringing attention to the fact that since Rio 92, our main goal is the Amazon. And we've been doing that in the 30 last editions of the COP. The politicians and part of the scientific community sometimes have difficulty to come to the Amazon, are afraid of coming to the Amazon, have some prejudice. But you are coming here and you're seeing that it's possible to live here. It's hot, but there's two kinds of heat. The heat from the sun and the heat from the warmth of the people, of the caring of the people. So welcome. Thank you, Salomon, for allowing me to talk on behalf of the Federal University of Pará. Thank you to all of you who came from so many different countries. Our doors are open. And I don't know if anyone told you, but we are a big university with 53,000 students, more than 60,000 people in all. It's a very complex university because it has 12 different campuses. Some of them have 950 kilometers away, and that scares people just to mention how far they are. And in the city of Marajó, it's very difficult. It's so far. You have to travel for 12 hours depending on the tide. If you're going against the tide, it takes 14 hours. Yeah, it took 14 hours by boat last time I went, but it's delicious. It's a great trip. We learn a lot. It's very enjoyable. We face anything when we do that. We are not afraid of difficulties because we live them daily. Thank you. A big hug to all of you. Thank you so much. Before you leave, sorry, the interpreter cannot hear now. When I look at Tanya and Alipio, they are two of our great representatives. They're also in our network. Okay, sorry, Professor Luciana, for the interruption. And it was a pleasure having you here. It's an honor for us. So, taking into consideration that we went beyond the time, we still have two more people that want to speak, or three of them. So I'll give the floor to them, and then we'll go back to the table. Good afternoon. Congratulations to the panel for being so succinct in your talks. My name is Vera Jacob. I'm a teacher here of the Education Institute in the postgraduate program. I'd like to say something in relation to what Mayane and Dalila said, in relation to the fact that science needs to advance when it comes to inequalities in science. Most of the resources are centralized in the south and southeast areas of Brazil. And we still have gender and race inequalities. Now, at the CNPq, in the area of education, we have tried, and I believe there's only two areas in this distribution of scholarships, but we advanced and we attributed different points to researchers based on race, region, distinguishing north, northeast, and center-west. Those are the three biggest regions in the area. But unfortunately, 70% of our funds go to south and southeast. That means only 30% are left for north and northeast. So we did things differently in the area of education. And then we achieved different results. Dalila raised an issue that something that needs to change in Brazil to solve the science problem in the universities is the issue of financing. After Bolsonaro's government, or during his government, the logics has changed. So now we have a Congress that has more executive power than the legislative power because they concentrate resources within National Congress. So now the universities have to go after parliamentarian amendments to obtain resources, to obtain capital for research in Brazil. So not only we need to change the government, but we need to elect new representatives for National Congress and face this problem that is a result of the Bolsonaro's government, because the public funds should not be totally decided by National Congress so that they can use the funds for political bargaining. So your question was important. What to do after the 22nd? That's what we're asking here in Belém. There was an improvement in the infrastructure of Belém, but will it be maintained? As long as we know in the history of our city, in city of Belém, it would be difficult to solve the problems of flooding, garbage, environment. The government, the politicians only mobilized because of COP. After that, we will see some abandonment. Unfortunately, that's the reality in our country. Good afternoon to everyone. I would like to congratulate the panel. They asked me to be brief. I have a hard time. So the question by the teacher, what will happen after the 22nd? And I ask everyone here, what will happen to the Quilombola people after the 22nd? I'm a Black woman. I'm come from a Quilombola community, and I want to talk based on our lands. We are there. This whole discussion that's done here, based coming from the institution, needs to come through our lands. So it's a very institutional talk, but I want to talk from the point of view of the Quilombola communities, because I am a Quilombola, and we have a lot of struggles. Professor Mayane said something that caught my attention. She said, "Cop in the Amazon or copy of the Amazon." That's where the key turns. For the cop to belong to the Amazon, it needs to respect us, to consider us. And we have a lot to contribute. Our voice, but our voices need to be heard. Our questions, our positions, and the guidelines in the document that you mentioned need to have our voice, our contribution. If this does not happen, it will be for nothing. It's beautiful what the dean just said about the COP, but what will happen to us? So respect, recognition, so that this COP effectively belongs to the Amazon is super necessary. The, the, this morning, they talked about territories and territoriality. We have the pedagogy of resistance. We call it a Quilombola pedagogy. It's our way of living. It's our way of being and doing and creating. It's our way of life. And this needs to be respected. Therefore, we are subjects that need to be recognized as protagonists. The recognition of our protagonism and the recognition of our of the institutions needed to understand that yes, we can contribute. We have models for environmental regeneration. Sorry, I have so much to say. Based on that, these discussions about climate change are very important. Our lands, our Quilombola and indigenous lands need to be recognized and demarcated. And we need to get the title to the lands. It needs to be done now. Our lands are being constantly violated. The mitigation that was discussed here, the adequation that was discussed here needs to be discussed with us within the discussion, not for us, as if we were something isolated. So we can help with the solutions. She's putting pressure on me to finish. Many of those adequations and mitigations that are discussed for us and not with us don't solve our problems. We need to be subjects within those discussions so they can have a concrete effect. Many of those Quilombola peoples don't have the structure to face the impacts. The document is very beautiful, but we need to participate in the construction of the document. Our voices need to be in the official documents of the COP30, the People's Summits, all the documents. I did not bring a question. I brought a thought-provoking issue. The talk here is very institutional, but epistemological knowledge needs to dialogue with traditional knowledge. Thank you. Well, due to the time, I'm going to go back here to the panel. Tomorrow we'll continue with the discussions. We'll have more space for those discussions tomorrow. Okay, I'll just let you speak last quickly, very fast. I'm Isabel George, sociologist from France. I just want to congratulate the table for the quality of the talks. I just have a question regarding the role of university to lead several diverse movements, and what could it be the role of the science and knowledge to somehow reduce inequalities and give place to diversity, which could become different solutions for consumption. Brazil has a lot to teach the whole world. We have a lot to teach from Brazil. We have a lot to learn from Brazil, sorry. I apologize, but the dean and myself have an event. We need to leave now. The contributions here are very important. It demonstrates how much you all will have to discuss within the next few days. Also, I would like to make justice to the caravan with France has this IRT, which is an agency that supports research in France. It was the institution that funded the caravan. It was beautiful. Experiences of this nature, like this event, are very important. That's what is going to allow for other voices, other realities unknown and have a place. And that's how we move forward. Our challenge post COP is big, but now we have to focus on the COP and make sure it's a big political event with commitments, all the commitments that our planet so badly needs. Thank you for the opportunity to participate here. And you can count with us with the CNPq in whatever we can do. Thank you. You did not introduce yourself, dear Rosalinda. Oh, Rosalina. Okay, just again, thank you the possibility of being here, dialoguing with all of you. They made me very happy to be part of this panel with all of you, Professor Pedro, Delilah, Stephen, Mayane. But I understand that what Rosa said was not just a thought-provoking question. She was actually uh, in, she's actually making us think about the intentions about this, about our position, ethical, political positioning as a university. We have a partner, Professor Miguel Denin from Amapá, when he can guarantee that we bring out our students to places like Quilombo do Curiaú in the state of Amapá, we managed to go there and do this demarcation, some investments in culture. They said it was crucial to include that in the letter, so it would be a pleasure to add our voices to your voices. And so that my academic focus, which is to bring my student to experience all of that, because it becomes more and more difficult that the social environmental education is focused on the Amazonian people. I agree with you. Thank you. It was a great afternoon. It was an afternoon where so many topics, so many issues were discussed. I hope we can enjoy the days we have ahead to come back to some of these issues. It's fundamental today to bring the perception of the environment in the daily lives of people. The environment is something that needs to save people. The society needs to be mobilized each time more to effectively delay the end of the world. Thank you, everyone. So now we conclude. I apologize if I had to be a little harsh sometimes, controlling the time. Now we have the end of the event. It's an artistic presentation, if you can stay. It's a cultural moment prepared with lots of care and love by the organizing committee. Thank you so much, and we'll continue our work tomorrow.